Not long after the High Queen summoned Lily to the Chamber of Echoes, a room where truth could not be hidden. The walls pulsed with light that responded to heartbeats, and lies caused the floor to crack. The Queen sat on a throne of woven light, her eyes ancient and sharp. She did not speak at first, she only studied Lily as if reading her bones. "Why do you stay, Nyra?" Finally asked her voice, echoing in the hollow space. "Because I was asked to." Lily replied, "That is duty, not reason, Lily." Took a breath. "Because I believe peace is worth standing for even when no one sees you. Even when you are tired, even when you are afraid." The Queen's eyes softened slightly. "You speak plainly for one so young. I have seen too much to waste words." A silence fell then. The Queen rose and walked toward her until they stood face to face. "My daughter sees something in you that I cannot yet see. But I trust her judgment more than my own doubts. You will remain here not as a guard, but as a guest of the crown." Lily bowed her head. "Thank you. But know this," the Queen added. "If you ever bring harm to Nyra or to Zira, I will unmake you with a thought." "I would never," Lily said, and the walls glowed steady and warm. From that day, Lily's role shifted. She was no longer just a sentinel. She began to attend council meetings, not to speak, but to listen. She learned how the Zenthians made decisions through consensus, not command, how they measured time in breaths, not hours, how they valued stillness as much as action. Nyra taught her the old songs, the ones sung during eclipses to honor ancestors. Lily's voice was rough compared to the melodic Zenthian tones. But Nyra said it was beautiful because it was real. One evening, as they walked through the memory grove, a forest, where each tree held a recorded life in its rings, Nyra stopped before a young sapling, its bark smooth and pale. "This one is for you," she said. Lily touched the trunk gently. It hummed faintly. "When a being becomes part of Zyra's story, they are given a tree," she explained. "Yours began the night you shielded the treaty." Lily felt tears rise, but she blinked them away. "Thank you." They sat beneath the tree as the sky darkened and the twin moons rose, casting silver light over the leaves. "Do you miss Earth?" Lily asked. Nyra was quiet for a long time. "I have never been there, but I feel I know it through you. Your memories, your scars, your hope. Yes, in a way, I miss it." Lily leaned her head on Nyra's shoulder, and for the first time in years she felt safe, not because there was no danger, but because she was not alone. But peace is fragile. Rumors reached the palace of a splinter faction called the Pure Veil. They believed Zenthians should return to isolation that mixing with other species diluted their essence. They saw Lily not as a bridge, but as a stain. One night, as Lily returned from the archives, she was ambushed in the lower corridor. 3 figures in dark cloaks blocked her path. One held a blade made of frozen sound. It hummed with enough power to shatter bone. "Leave this place, human, or be unmade one," hissed. Lily did not run, she stood her ground. "I will not." The blade lunged, but before it struck, a pulse of light erupted from the walls. The palace itself reacted, sensing threat to one it now recognized as part of its heart. The attackers were thrown back, their cloaks burning with harmless but blinding light. Guards arrived moments later. But Lily was already walking away, her hands shaking, but her steps steady. "Nyra, I found her in the healing chamber where soft moss mended minor wounds. You could have died. I know. Why did you not call for help?" "Because I knew the palace would protect me now." Nyra stared at her, then pulled her into a tight embrace. "You are part of Zyra now, not just in law, but in spirit." Lily held her back, and for the first time she allowed herself to believe it. The attack changed things. The High Queen declared the Pure Veil enemies of the state and ordered their exile. But Nyra argued for understanding. Exile breeds more hatred, she told the council. "Let us show them that unity is not weakness." And so a gathering was called. All Zenthians were invited to witness a ceremony in the central plaza. Lily stood beside Nyra, not behind her as a guard, but beside her as an equal. Before the crowd, Lily spoke, not in grand words, but in simple truth. "I came here with nothing but a promise to stand. I did not come to change you, I came to learn from you. And in doing so I found a home. I do not ask you to trust me because I am human. I ask you to see me because I am here." Silence followed. Then one elder stepped forward and placed a hand on Lily's shoulder, a gesture of acceptance. Others followed until the plaza was filled with outstretched hands. That night the stars seemed brighter. In the weeks that followed, the Pure Veil lost support. Their anger had no fuel in a place now filled with curiosity, not fear. Lily and Naira spent more time together walking the cloud paths, riding the wind skiffs, visiting the lower cities where Zenthian children now drew pictures of humans with kind eyes one afternoon as they sat by the crystal river. Lily asked what happens now. Naira smiled now. We build something new together. Not human, not Zenthian, but something in between. Something honest. Lily took her hand and squeezed it gently. I am ready. And so they began, not with treaties or titles, but with shared meals, shared silences, shared dreams of a future where difference was not a wall but a window. Lily never became a queen. She never wore a crown, but she stood beside one. And in that standing she changed the course of two worlds, not through power, but through presence, through the quiet courage of showing up every day and choosing kindness, even when it was hard, and, in the end, that was enough. The humble human guard endured every trial. Only then did the alien princess confess love. Months passed, and the bond between Lily and Naira deepened like roots in rich soil. They no longer needed words to understand each other. A glance, a breath. A shared silence spoke volumes. The palace staff, who once eyed Lily with suspicion, now greeted her with nods of respect. Some even brought her small gifts, woven light charms or cups of warm star blossom tea left quietly at her door. But peace is never final. It is a living thing that must be tended. News came from the outer colonies. A human freighter had been attacked near the Kasari border. The ship belonged to a neutral trade guild, but the attackers wore Zenthian insignia or something close enough to cause alarm. Earth Command sent a formal inquiry demanding answers. The fragile trust between species trembled like a leaf in storm wind. The High Queen called an emergency council. Lily was not invited, but Naira insisted she attend. She stands with us now. The princess declared, her voice calm but firm. If we speak of humans, we speak with one. The council grumbled but relented. In the Chamber of Echoes, Lily listened as reports unfolded. The attackers used Zenthian pulse blades and spoke in broken dialect, but their movements were wrong, too stiff, too aggressive. Real Zenthians flowed like water. These moved like machines. Someone is framing us, Lily said softly. All eyes turned to her. How do you know? The elder Voss asked, his tone sharp. Because I have seen real Zenthians move, she replied, and that was not them. Naira stepped forward. This is the work of the Void. Remnant, a human extremist group that survived the war. They hate aliens. They hate peace. They want chaos. Murmurs filled the room. Then why use our symbols? Voss pressed, to make us look guilty so Earth turns on us and the alliance shatters. Lily answered. Silence followed, heavy and thick. The Queen studied Lily for a long time, then spoke. We will send envoys to Earth to explain, but words may not be enough. I will go. Lily said. Naira turned to her, eyes wide. It has to be me. Lily continued. I am human. They will listen to me more than to Zenthians, and I know the remnant. I fought them before. They wear old military tags. They use stolen tech. They speak in slogans about purity. The council argued, but the Queen raised a hand. Enough, let her go, but she will not go alone. Naira stepped forward. I will accompany her. Protests erupted, but the Queen silenced them with a look. If the alliance is to survive, it must be shown that we stand together, not just in peace but in crisis. Preparations began at once. The royal skiff was readied, its hull shimmering with cloaking mist. Lily packed little, just her old medkit, her brother's wristband, and the moonwood pendant Naira gave her as they boarded the ship. Lily looked back at the palace, its spires glowing in the twilight. Are you sure about this? Naira asked, standing beside her. No, Lily admitted. But I have to try. The journey to Earth took 3 cycles aboard the skiff. They spoke little, the weight of their mission pressing on them, but sometimes in the quiet hum of the engines, Naira would reach for Lily's hand and hold it until the stars outside blurred into streaks of light. When they arrived, Earth was not as Lily remembered it. The cities were rebuilding, but scars remained in the sky and the ground. In the eyes of the people, they landed at the new Geneva spaceport, where Earth Alliance Command had its headquarters. Officers met them with rifles drawn until Lily stepped forward and gave her old service code. Recognition flickered in the lead officer's eyes. Lily Carter from the 7th Relief Corps, she nodded. They were escorted inside, not as enemies but not as heroes. Either suspicion hung in the air like smoke. In the briefing room, generals and diplomats sat around a long table. Hollow images of the attacked freighter floated above it. We have proof it was Zenthians. One general said, his voice heartily walked to the center of the room. Play the comms log from the attack. They did. A scratchy voice came through, speaking in a rough imitation of Zenthian, but Lily heard it immediately. It was human. A man named Dax Rourke, a former lieutenant who had gone rogue after the war. He blamed aliens for Earth's losses. That is Dax Rourke. Lily said, he was in my unit. He lost his family in the Mars evacuation. He thinks peace is betrayal. How do you know it is him? Because he always ends his rants with "Remember old Earth." The recording ended with those exact words. Silence filled the room. Naira stepped forward. We did not do this, but we understand why you doubted us. Fear makes enemies of strangers. One of the diplomats leaned forward. What do you propose? Let us find Rourke. Lily said, he is hiding in the asteroid belt near Ceres. He uses old mining tunnels. We can draw him out, and if you fail, then you will know we tried. Lily replied. The council agreed, but gave them only 1 week back on the skiff. Nira activated the stealth drive. We know where he is, but getting close will be hard. He has sensors. Lily opened her med kit and pulled out a small device. This is a pulse dampener. I built it during downtime. It scrambles short-range scans. Naira smiled. You never stop surprising me. They reached the Ceres belt under cover of a solar flare. The skiff drifted like space debris toward Tunnel Gamma 7, the last known location of Rourke's signal. Inside the tunnel, it was dark, cold metal walls lined with old machinery. Lily moved first, her boots silent on the grating. Naira followed her steps light as mist. They found Rourke in the control room, surrounded by screens showing Zenthian broadcasts. He was thinner now, his eyes wild, but he recognized Lily instantly. Traitor, he spat. You sided with them. I sided with peace, Lily said. There is no peace with monsters, he yelled. They are not monsters. Lily stepped closer. They mourn, they love, they hope just like us. Rourke laughed bitterly. They took everything from us. No, Lily said softly. We took everything from ourselves. The war was ours. The fire was ours. The Xenthians offered help after, and you called it poison. Rourke raised a pistol, but before he could fire, Naira moved a pulse of light from her palm, struck the weapon, melting it into slag. Stared at her, then at Lily. You really love her? Lily did not answer. She did not need to. Rourke sank to his knees, the fight gone from him. I just wanted someone to remember what we lost. We remember, Lily said, kneeling beside him, but remembering does not mean repeating. She activated her Comm Earth command. This is Carter. We have the perpetrator stand down. The Xenthians are clear back on the skiff. Rourke sat in silence, bound, but not harmed. When they returned to Geneva, the truth spread quickly. Earth Command issued a public apology. To Zyra, trade routes reopened and trust began to mend. But the real victory came later. At a joint ceremony in orbit above Earth, and Zyra, the High Queen, and the Earth Chancellor signed a new pact, not just of alliance, but of shared future exchange, programs, joint science missions, and cultural bridges. Lily stood beside Nira on the viewing deck, watching the twin planets spin below. You did it, Lily said softly. We did, Naira replied. After the ceremony, they returned to Zyra, not as princess and guard, but as partners in something new. The palace felt different now, warmer. Lily no longer walked its halls as a guest, but as someone who belonged. The children waved when she passed. The elders bowed. Not out of duty, but respect. One evening as they sat in the memory grove beneath Lily's tree, now tall and strong with silver leaves, Naira turned to her. Will you stay? Lily looked at her, at the stars, at the world they had helped heal. Yes, she said. This is my home now. Naira took her hand and pressed it to her chest, where two hearts beat in rhythm, slow, steady, sure. And so they remained, not in grand titles or loud declarations, but in quiet days, shared meals, and the kind of love that does not need to shout. Because it is written in every choice, every breath, every moment of standing together when the universe tries to pull them apart. Lily, the human who came with nothing but a promise, had given everything, and in return, she received not just love, but a place where she was seen, not despite her past, but because of it. And in the end, that was more than enough. The humble human guard endured every trial. Only then did the alien princess confess. Love life settled into a new rhythm on Zyra, the kind that hums rather than shouts. Lily no longer stood guard at archways but walked the palace halls as a teacher of understanding. She spoke to young Zenthians about human history, not the wars, but the songs, the stories, the quiet acts of kindness that never made headlines. She showed them how humans held funerals with flowers, how they celebrated births with light, how they apologized with food when words were not enough. Naira in turn began visiting Earth once every cycle. She walked through rebuilt cities, not as a royal observer but as a student of human resilience. She sat in community gardens in Chicago. She listened to elders in Tokyo tell tales of survival. She even tried to cook pasta in a small kitchen in Rome, and laughed when it turned to mush. Their bond became a living bridge not built of treaties but of shared mornings, shared silences, and the way they always saved the last piece of star blossom bread for each other. But even the strongest bridges face storms. A strange signal began to pulse from the dead zone, a region of space long abandoned after the Void War. It was not Zenthian, not human, it was something older. Something that did not respond to hails or scans. It simply watched. At first, the Alliance ignored it. Signals had echoed from the dead zone before, ghost echoes of old battles. But this one grew stronger. It began to interfere with comms near the outer colonies. Ships reported glitches in navigation systems, and crew members spoke of hearing whispers in their sleep. The High Queen convened a secret meeting. Only Lily, Nira, and 3 trusted elders were present. "We believe it is a dormant probe," Lily said, studying the data. "It is waking up?" "But whose?" one elder asked. "That is what worries me." Lily replied. Naira placed a hand on the table. "It does not matter whose it is. If it threatens peace, we must act." The council agreed to send a small team to investigate, but no weapons, only observation tools. They did not want to provoke whatever slept in the dark. Lily and Naira volunteered to lead the mission. Aboard the skiff named the Quiet Heart, they traveled toward the dead zone. The stars grew sparse, the usual hum of space grew thin, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. The third day the signal changed. It began to mimic voices. Lily heard her brother calling her name from the comms panel. Nira heard her mother's lullaby sung in a voice long gone. They knew it was illusion, but it hurt all the same. "Do not listen," Lily said, gripping the control. Nira closed her eyes and focused on Lily's presence beside her. "That is real. This is not." They reached the source, a massive structure floating in the void. It looked like a seed, made of black metal covered in symbols that shifted when stared at too long. As they approached, the skiff systems flickered, then died. They drifted silently toward the object. "We are being pulled in," Lily said. Nira activated the emergency tether ropes. "We will go in on foot inside the structure." The air was cold and thick with static. The walls pulsed with faint light and the floor felt soft like skin. They moved carefully, their boots making no sound in the central chamber. They found it a sphere floating in mid-air, humming with power. It was not machine. It was alive in a way neither of them understood. It spoke, not in words but in feelings. It showed them images of countless species rising, falling, turning on each other again and again. It saw intelligence as a disease. It saw peace as weakness. It had watched civilizations for eons and decided they all deserved to end. "This is the Watcher," Lily whispered. "It does not want war, it wants silence." Naira said. The sphere pulsed brighter and the walls began to close in. "Run," Lily shouted. They sprinted back through the twisting corridors, the structure shifting around them, trying to trap them at the exit. The tether ropes were gone, severed by unseen force. "We are stranded." Lily said, "Not yet." Naira reached into her belt and pulled out a small crystal, the same kind used in Zenthian memory trees. She pressed it to the wall. "What are you doing, giving it a memory?" she said. The crystal glowed and the structure paused. Lily understood. She took her brother's wristband and pressed it to the wall beside the crystal. Then she placed her hand over it and thought of all the quiet moments of peace she had known, the shared meals, the healing words, the way Naira held her hand during storms. Naira added her own memories, the first time she saw Lily stand firm the night in the garden. The sound of Lily's laugh. The sphere pulsed, again but slower, softer. The walls opened. They ran back to the skiff, its systems rebooting as if waking from a dream. As they flew away, the structure dimmed, then vanished into the void as if it had never been. Back on Zira, They reported what happened, but left out the part about the memories they knew no record could capture what truly saved them. The Alliance declared the dead zone safe again. But Lily and Nira knew the truth. Some things cannot be fought with weapons, only with heart. Weeks later, as they walked through the lower city, a child ran up to Lily and handed her a drawing. It showed two figures, one pale, one dark, standing under twin suns with a tree growing between them. "For you," the child said, then ran off. Lily held the drawing closer. That night they sat on the palace roof watching the stars. "Do you think it is gone for good?" Nira asked. On the outer rim of known space, where stars blinked like tired eyes, the Zenthian palace floated above the clouds of Zyra, a world of crystal rivers and singing winds. It was a place of ancient law and deeper silence. And into this world came Lily, a human woman with no rank, no title, and no reason to be there except that Earth had sent her as a symbol of peace. Lily stood at the eastern archway of the Grand Hall. Her boots worn, her uniform patched at the elbows. She was the only human allowed inside the inner sanctum of the palace, and many Zenthians believed she would not last a single cycle. They watched her with eyes that held two pupils, each one seeing a different truth. They saw her small frame, her pale skin, her quiet breath, and assumed she was weak. But Lily had survived the Void War. She had dragged wounded soldiers through burning wreckage. She had stitched wounds with thread made from parachute cords, and she had never once screamed, even when her own leg was broken by shrapnel. So when the Zenthians tested her with shifting floors, sudden cold, and hours of standing without rest, she simply adjusted her stance and kept watch. The Zenthians valued endurance above all else, not the loud kind shown in battle, but the quiet kind that held still in the face of uncertainty. They believed true strength was shown not when one fought, but when one waited, when one remained. Princess Nira, the youngest daughter of the High Queen, watched Lily from the shadowed balconies. She had heard the whispers that the human was soft, that she would break like glass under pressure. But each day Lily stood a little straighter. Each night she returned to her post, even after the palace corridors twisted into mazes designed to confuse outsiders. Nira had never met a human before. Earth was a distant memory in Zenthian records, a planet that had nearly destroyed itself in fire and rage. Yet this human before her showed none of that fury. She showed patience. She showed calm. She showed something the princess could not name but felt in her bones, like a quiet Humone evening. As the twin moons rose over the spires of the palace, Lily was ordered to stand guard outside the Vault of Memories, a sealed chamber where the oldest treaties of the Galactic Alliance were kept. It was a ceremonial post. No one had tried to breach it in centuries, but that night the air changed. It grew heavy like before. A storm. Lily felt it before she saw it. A shift in the light. A silence where there should have been sound. She turned slowly, her hand resting near her sidearm, though she knew it would do little against Zenthian energy fields. 3 figures emerged from the corridor, their robes dark as void. Their faces hidden beneath hoods. They moved with purpose, not stealth. They did not fear being seen. They believed no one would stop them. "Halt," Lily said, her voice low but firm. The lead figure paused, then laughed, a dry sound like cracking stone. "You are the human pet. They said you guard paper, while empires folly guard what was promised," she replied. The figure raised a hand and the vault door shimmered, its seals beginning to dissolve. The treaty between Earth and Zyra was inside, and if it vanished, so would the Alliance. Lily did not draw her weapon. She knew it would be useless. Instead, she stepped forward and placed her bare hand on the vault door. The moment her skin touched the crystal surface, the entire chamber glowed white. In Zenthian law, any being who shields a sacred document with bare flesh during a time of threat becomes its living guardian. The treaty bonded to her life force, to her breath, to her heartbeat. The elders froze their plan undone, not by force but by custom older than their bloodlines. They bowed not out of respect but out of obligation, and left without another word. Lily stood there trembling, not from fear but from the weight of what she had done. She had not known the law, she had only known what was right. Word spread through the palace like wind through dry grass. The human had not fought, she had endured, and in doing so had honored the deepest Xenthian value. That night Princess Nira came to her, not in the throne room, but in the Garden of Echoes, a place where truth could not be hidden, because The petals sang when touched by honesty. You did not know the law, Lily said. Standing at attention though her legs ached, I did not need to know it. Naira replied, her voice softer than Lily had ever heard. You acted because it was right, not because you sought glory. Lily, look down, I was just doing my job. There is no just in what you did. Naira stepped closer, her obsidian skin catching the starlight. You stood alone against those who would undo peace. You used no weapon, only your will, Lily finally met her gaze. I am not special, you are to me, Naira whispered. Silence stretched between them, filled only by the soft song of the petals. In the days that followed, Lily remained at her post. But everything had changed. The other guards no longer sneered. They nodded as she passed. The elders avoided her, not from shame but from awe. And Naira visited often, not as a princess, but as someone seeking something real. She asked Lily about Earth, about rain, about how humans laughed when they were nervous, about how they held hands when they were scared. Lily answered, simply, never exaggerating, never hiding her fears or doubts. She spoke of her childhood in a small town where the sky was wide and the nights were quiet. She spoke of losing friends in the war, and how she still heard their voices in her dreams. Naira listened as if each word was a rare Gemini evening, as the suns dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in violet and gold. Naira arrived without attendants. She carried a small box made of moonwood carved with spirals. This is for you, she said. Lily hesitated, then accepted it. Inside was a pendant shaped like an endless loop, the symbol of eternal return. In Zenthian culture, it means you belong here, Naira said. Your endurance has woven you into our story. Lily touched the pendant. Warmth spread through her fingers. But I am human, and I am Zenthian, Naira said. Yet we see each other clearly. That is rare. Lily looked away, her throat tight. I cannot offer you anything in return. You already have. Naira took her hand and placed it over her own chest, where two hearts beat in slow rhythm. Feel that this is mine and it chooses you. Lily's eyes filled, but she did not cry. She simply nodded. From that night, the human guard no longer stood alone. In the corridor, she stood beside the princess. Not as servant, not as symbol, but as equal. The alliance did not need treaties anymore. It had something stronger. A bond forged in silence, tested in fire and sealed. Not with ink, but with two hearts that chose each other across stars and species. Lily never asked for glory. She never sought praise, she simply endured, and in that endurance she found not just acceptance but a home, a purpose, and a love as vast and quiet as the stars themselves. The humble, human guard endured every trial. Only then did the alien princess confess love. After the night in the Garden of Echoes, everything changed, not with fanfare or decree, but with quiet certainty. Lily no longer ate alone in the lower barracks. She was invited to the princess's private terrace, where meals were served on plates that glowed with soft light, and the air smelled of star blossom tea. Naira sat across from her, not on a raised dais, but at the same low table, her long fingers folding napkins into shapes that reminded Lily of earthbirds in flight. They spoke of small things at first, the way human coffee smelled like burnt hope, the way Xenthian children learned to walk on floating stones, the sound of rain on metal roofs versus crystal domes, but soon their talks grew deeper. Naira asked about grief, and Lily told her of the day her younger brother vanished in the orbital strike on New Chicago. She described how she kept his old wristband in her pocket and how sometimes she pressed it to her lips when no one was watching. Naira listened without pity. Without offering empty comfort, she simply said in Zenthian tradition, "We keep the names of the lost in our breath. We say them softly each dawn, so they never truly leave." Lily felt something loosen in her chest, a knot she had carried for years. As weeks passed, the bond between them deepened. But the court watched with wary eyes. Not all Zenthians approved of the princess's growing closeness to a human. Some whispered that Naira was being charmed by primitive emotion. Others feared that Lily was a spy sent to weaken their traditions from within. One morning, Lily arrived at her post to find her name scratched into the wall beside a crude drawing of a broken chain. The message was clear. She did not belong. She said nothing. She wiped the wall clean with her sleeve and stood her shift as usual. But that night she dreamed of Earth, of empty streets and silent radios, and woke with her heart pounding. Naira found her, On the balcony overlooking the cloud sea, her arms wrapped around herself like she was holding her pieces together. "You are afraid?" Lily nodded but did not speak. "Fear is not weakness," Naira said, sitting beside her. "It is the space where courage grows." Lily looked at her. "Do you ever fear?" "Every day," Naira admitted. "I fear that I will fail my people, that I will choose poorly, that I will love too loudly or too quietly, and lose what matters most." Lee was silent for a long time. Then she said, "I am afraid that I will never be enough for this place." "You already are." Naira took her hand. "Your presence here has made us question old ways, not with anger, but with curiosity. That is a rare gift." "I do not know," Lily replied, "but I know this: as long as beings choose kindness over fear, as long as they stand together, even when it is hard, the darkness will never win." Ra leaned her head on Lily's shoulder, and they stayed like that until the twin moons rose time passed and their work continued. Not in grand missions, but in small daily acts, Lily helped design a new school where human and Zenthian children learned side by side. Naira worked with Earth scientists to heal damaged ecosystems, using Zenthian biolight. They never married in the human sense nor bonded in the Zenthian ritual, but everyone knew they were bound by something deeper than ceremony. One evening, as they sat in the memory grove, now filled with trees for many who had joined their cause, Lily felt a strange calm settle over her. "What is it?" Naira asked. "Sensing the shift, think I am finally home," she said. Naira smiled and took her hand. "You have been for a long time," and so they remained two souls from different worlds, who chose to stand not in front of each other, not behind, but side by side, facing whatever came next together. The universe was vast and full of unknowns. But in that garden under singing stars, they had all they needed. Love not loud, not perfect, but real and enduring, like the quiet courage of a human guard who once stood alone and changed everything, just by staying true. The humble human guard endured every trial. Only then did the alien princess confess. Love years flowed like the crystal rivers of Zira, quiet, steady and deep. Lily's hair had streaks of silver now, and the lines around her eyes spoke of laughter more than sorrow. She no longer wore a uniform, but simple robes woven from moonlight thread, a gift from the palace weavers who now called her sister Naira's. Steps were as graceful as ever, but her voice carried a new softness, one that only Lily ever heard in the still hours before dawn. They lived in a small dwelling at the edge of the memory grove, not in the palace spires, but close enough to hear the morning chimes that called the city to wake each day. Their home was filled with things from both worlds. A human coffee pot sat beside a Xenthian steam kettle. Books in English shared shelves with scrolls of living ink, and in the center of it all stood a table where they shared every meal. Peace had taken root, not as a grand declaration, but as a daily choice taught in schools, practiced in markets, and whispered in lullabies, sung to mixed children whose skin shimmered with hints of both earth and Zyra. But even the deepest peace must face its final test. It began with a silence, not the peaceful kind, but the heavy kind that falls before a storm. Comms from the Outer Alliance stations went dark one by one. No distress calls, no explosions, just quiet, as if someone had turned off the stars. Lily felt it first in her bones. A familiar dread she had not known since the void. Warnera saw it in the way the palace walls dimmed their glow as if bracing. They stood on their balcony watching the sky where constellations once bright now flickered like dying candles. "Something is coming," Lily said. "Not something," Nera replied. "Someone." The High Queen summoned them, not to the Chamber of Echoes, but to the Heart Vault, the oldest room in the palace where the first treaty between species was kept carved into living stone. "You are both older now," the Queen said, her voice carrying the weight of centuries. "But your bond is stronger than ever. That is why I ask this of you." She showed them a map of the silence. It spread like ink in water, swallowing systems whole. "We believe it is the remnant, but not the human kind. Not the Zenthian kind. Something that learned from both and twisted them into a new kind of hate. It calls itself the pure silence, and it believes all connection is corruption." Lily's blood ran cold. She had heard that name before in old war logs whispered by dying soldiers. "It was a myth, a ghost. It is real," the Queen said. "And it is coming," Here the Alliance prepared for warships gathered at the edge of known space weapons charged and shields raised. But Lily knew this enemy could not be fought with fire. They want isolation. She told the War Council, if we meet them with armies, we prove their point that unity leads to violence. Then what do you suggest? An elder asked. We meet them with truth, Lily said. Nira stood beside her. We open our doors, not our weapons. The council argued, but the queen silenced them with a look. Let them try so. While fleets gathered in the void, Lily and Nira walked the streets of the capital. They visited schools and asked children to draw pictures of friendship. They sat in markets and shared food with strangers. They opened the palace gardens to all species and played music that blended human strings with Zenthian wind chimes. They made no speeches. They made no threats. They simply lived as they always had, in openness and trust and quiet courage. The pure silence arrived, not with bombs, but with silence. Fields that drained sound and light. They expected fear. They expected walls. Instead, they found open gates. Their lead envoy, a being wrapped in shifting shadow, stepped onto Zaira's soil expecting resistance. Lily and Nira met them at the garden gate. Why, do you not fight? Shadow asked. Because fighting you is what you want, Lily replied. You believe connection is corruption. Nira added, but we believe it is completion. Shadow hesitated, then removed its veil. Beneath was a face both human and Zenthian scarred. By old pain he lost everything to trust, it said. So did we, Lily said gently. But we chose to build again. For 3 days the envoy walked the city, seeing children of mixed blood laughing, seeing elders of different species sharing stories, seeing markets where no one asked where you came from, only if you needed help. On the 4th day the envoy stood before Lily and Nira again. Your world should not exist, it said. But it does. Lily replied. The envoy looked at the sky where the twin suns shone on 1,000 different faces. Then it bowed. We will leave and we will not return. The silence fields lifted. The stars returned to their places and the Alliance stood in stunned quiet. No one had fired a single shot back in their home. Lily sat at the table exhausted, but calm. You knew they would not attack. Nira said, pouring her a cup of tea. I hope, she replied. Hope is not weakness. It is the bravest kind of strength. That night they walked through the memory grove, now vast with trees for every soul who had chosen peace over fear. Lily stopped before her own tree, its branches wide, its leaves glowing softly. It has grown so much, she said. So have you. Nira took her hand. They sat beneath it as they had done so many times before, watching the stars blink awake one by one. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I had not stood guard that first day? Lily asked. Every day, Nira said. And every day I am grateful. You did. Lily leaned her head on Nira's shoulder and closed her eyes. In the distance, the city hummed. With life, human voices, Zenthian songs, the laughter of children who would never know a world divided. The universe was still vast, still full of unknowns, but here on Zira, in this quiet grove, 2 hearts beat in rhythm, steady, sure and unafraid. They had faced war, betrayal, silence, and doubt. And through it all they had chosen each other, not in grand gestures, but in 1,000 small acts of showing up, of staying, of believing that love was not just a feeling, but a practice. And in the end that was enough to change everything. The stars above did not care about species or borders or old wounds. They shone for all. And in their light Lily and Nira sat together, not as hero and princess, not as human and alien, but as 2 souls who had found home in each other and built a world where others could do the same.